all having a wonderful holiday weekend. Molly Karam here holding it down in Bristol. Stephen A. and Max are in the Big Apple. Gentlemen, good morning.
What's up? What's up? How
What's
y'all doing?
Molly?
Good morning.
What's up,
Happy
Stephen
Labor
A?
Day. Yes, yes. What's up?
Likewise.
Let's go.
All right, guys, let's do it. Yes, good morning. Coming up on the show, Grizzly star point guard Mike Conley is here. How does he feel about Kevin Durant joining the Warriors? Find out that in just a bit. But we start with Sam Bradford, who signed a lucrative 2-year deal with Philadelphia before the season was expected to be the team's starting quarterback, but now he is no longer an Eagle. The Vikings acquired Bradford in a trade with the Eagles on Saturday. Minnesota was in dire need for a quarterback after Teddy Bridgewater went down with a torn ACL in practice last week. Let's take a look at what the Vikings had to give up to get Bradford. Philly will receive Minnesota's first-round draft pick in 2017, as well as a conditional fourth-rounder in 2018. The Eagles now plan to start the number 2 overall pick in this year's draft, Carson Wentz, according to ESPN's Adam Kaplan. Stephen A., let's start with you here. Is Sam Bradford the right man for the Vikings?
Believe it or not, I don't want anybody to faint here, but I have no problem with this whatsoever. My answer would be a yes, an emphatic yes, I might add. And I know my man Max Kellerman will get a bit emotional and philosophical, and I'll let him do that in just a second. But I must say to you that when I think about Sam Bradford with the Minnesota Vikings, I have no problem with this. I'm certainly no fan of Sam Bradford. We all know this. The man, it'll be a miracle if he starts 16 games for crying out loud, let alone be productive to the point of the stars that we love to celebrate. But when you consider the team that he is going to, let's acknowledge the fact that we're talking about the Minnesota Vikings here, a team that had the second worst passing attack in all of football last year, but still made it to the playoffs, still won the NFC North. They've got the best running back in football, Adrian Peterson. Okay, they've got a good offensive line. They've got a stout defense. They've got an exceptional head coach. They even got good play calling from you in terms of not play calling, but good coaching from the offensive line, and from an offensive coordinator standpoint, you've got North Turner in there. So what you're doing by acquiring Sam Bradford is you're saying, look, here's what we need you to do. Make sure you can make a deep pass. Make sure that they can't cheat, suffocate the line of scrimmage, and key on Adrian Peterson. Don't sit up there and overcompensate because they know we don't have a passing attack. We've got a quarterback that can actually throw the ball downfield to a Laquan Treadwell, to a Stephon Diggs, to a Kyle Rudolph with the best running back in football. If I'm looking at it from that perspective, and I'm essentially saying I've got an elite running back and I've got a damn good defense, okay, and that alone was enough to get me to the playoffs with the second worst passing attack in all of football, I'm not fazed by giving up a first-round pick, because how big of a deal is that first-round pick going to be? I'm not going to be somebody that's going to miss the playoffs and end up giving you a top 5 pick or something like that. I expect to be in the postseason. I expect to be good. So when I look at it from that perspective, Max, I got to tell you, I really didn't have a problem with it. Not at all.
Well, in a vacuum, you'd be right, Stephen A. In a vacuum, Minnesota really had a need there, and Sam Bradford is look, he's a guy who's never had a real team around him. But throughout his career so far, we're talking about a veteran, marginal starting quarterback, but not branded as such because he's maintained his starter's position and he was drafted number 1 overall. But Sam Bradford would be fine in a vacuum, as I said, if there wasn't someone else available who made more sense and was cheaper, and that's Colin Kaepernick, who doesn't have the starting job right now in San Francisco, whose stock is low right now, who you could pick up for less than this. First of all, I got to say about the Eagles, before I even get into the Kaepernick stuff, it's a great trade for the Eagles, because the Eagles essentially, when you cancel out all the picks they gave up for Wentz and then got back in the Bradford deal, they basically are trading a number 2 pick in a second-round pick in 2018, and as I said, a marginal veteran quarterback, who's overpaid, let's face it, based on production, for the number 2 overall pick in the draft, Carson Wentz. That's really what it boils down to. Great trade for the Eagles. But from the Vikings' point of view, Colin Kaepernick is out there, Stephen A. He would not be as expensive to pick up as Bradford in terms of what you have to give up. And in terms of the actual expense, Bradford has $22 million guaranteed left. Kaepernick has 27. He's not even that much more expensive. Bradford's top QBR. And this was over only 7 games because he got hurt that year. 52. That was in 2013. Never had a QBR over 50. No, he didn't have a lot around him, but still, Colin Kaepernick's top QBR, 69 in 2012. Went to the Super Bowl, 66 in 2013. 1 pass away from the Super Bowl. Kaepernick's pedigree in the pros is simply qualitatively higher than Bradford's. Why wouldn't you want that guy who you have to give up less for?
Well, a couple of things. Number one, qualitatively is a word that you consistently throw out there. I'm still not sure what that word means, but that's okay. You're more intelligent than I am. What can I say? Let's throw that out of the way. Qualitatively, you love to throw that out. Of course, I know what it means. I'm just messing with you. But you also talked about looking at things in a vacuum. Well, Max, I'm the wrong person to throw that analogy to because I vacuum myself all the time. I actually know what it's like to live in a vacuum. It's practically living in a vacuum, for crying out loud, because I love to vacuum almost as much as I love to iron. Can't you tell? Anyway, having said all of that, let's be clear. No matter what you say or no matter what you think, what you're not paying attention to, Max Kellerman, is this. Colin Kaepernick right now is a distraction. And not only is he a distraction that Minnesota doesn't need because they're not some scrub team on a come-up. They're actually vying for a Super Bowl championship. You also have to take into consideration that for the last couple of years, he hasn't been that stellar as a passer. What's their Achilles heel? Their ability to pass the ball. Teddy Bridgewater had wheels. He could run and scramble out of the pocket. He could make plays with his legs, not as well as Colin Kaepernick could, but he could do it. The issue was, could you drop back in the pocket and throw from the pocket as a pocket passer in the National Football League? Under no circumstances am I proclaiming that Sam Bradford is elite in any way, but he did throw for nearly 4,000 yards last year. That wasn't the first time he's done that in his career. He does have an arm. He does have the ability to throw the ball deep. You did draft Laquan Treadwell, who's about 6'2", almost 230, can go up and get it, who's deceptively quick, if not fast, even though it was 4.6 in the 40. Wasn't that impressive at the NFL scouting combine? You've got to look at all of these things and piece it together and come to the conclusion that for this particular team, at this particular moment, Sam Bradford was the best available quarterback, and even better option than Colin Kaepernick.
I don't know. Look, Bradford can pass in one way, very well. His best ability is down the field. Kaepernick got a big arm. He can chuck it down the field. He can not chuck it, throw it down the field.
Not accurately.
In terms of Kaepernick? You see, he looked pretty good the other night, Stephen A.
Really?
And
That's
as I said,
a preseason game? Is that where we going?
Well, I mean, I gave you full seasons. I gave you full seasons where his QBR was significantly higher than Bradford, who's never really been good in that regard. And in terms of the distraction that Kaepernick is, there's been some talk recently. There was that state congressman from San Diego said Kaepernick maybe feels comfortable doing what he did in San Francisco. He wouldn't feel that way in San Diego, some nonsense like that, because of the kind of political climate in San Francisco. Minnesota is a state of independent thinkers. They sent a guy from the WWF at the time, Jesse Ventura, who had once been there, to the governor's mansion. They sent Al Franken from SNL to the Senate. I think they can deal with Colin Kaepernick starting at quarterback.
I'll drop the mic with this one last statement, Max Kellerman, and it really, really comes down to this. When you sit up there and you look at Colin Kaepernick, you can say what you want, but at the end of the day, Sam Bradford was in St. Louis. Did you forget that? Who was his coach? Did you forget that? These are the kind of things you have to remember. Playing for Jeff Fisher in St. Louis might be a little bit different than playing for Zimmer in Minnesota with the rest of the team around him. That's all I'm going to say.
We will leave it there, the details. So Max would have liked to see Kaepernick get a shot there in Minnesota. Stephen A. good with Bradford. We have another familiar face, though, gentlemen, in a new place, and we focus on the Cowboys now. Jerry Jones and the Cowboys making some big moves at quarterback this weekend. Again, in the headlines. The team was in need of a quarterback after Tony Romo suffered a compression fracture in his back, that on August 25th against the Seahawks. Sources say he'll be out 6 to 10 weeks. Luckily for them, the Broncos cut Mark Sanchez on Saturday, allowing Dallas to sign him. To make room for Sanchez, the Cowboys waived quarterback Jamil Showers. Rookie Dak Prescott is still expected to be the starter in Romo's absence. Max, start with you. Does signing Mark Sanchez make sense for Dallas?
perfect sense. This makes perfect sense for Dallas. First of all, Jerry Jones ideally would like to put the best football team on the field that can also put the meat in the seats. That's also interesting. Mark Sanchez, in this regard, fills the capacity. What are you laughing at, Stephen A? Mark Sanchez, when last seen,
Go ahead.
See, you just downplayed the preseason, right? So now you want to play up the preseason, or do you want to play up the last time Mark Sanchez played most of a season, which was 9 games for the Eagles 2 years ago, had a QBR of 59. Now, we're not talking about a star starting quarterback in Mark Sanchez, obviously, although he has that kind of level of fame and notoriety around the league. But as a backup, you're talking about as a veteran backup to Dak Prescott? You're going to do better than Mark Sanchez at this moment, who you don't have to give up anything for. You just sign him for the money, no draft picks, no nonsense. Who's better than Mark Sanchez out there that you're going to pick up, and who has the kind of not just QBR, but Q rating that will make Jerry Jones happy? He's perfect.
Well, first of all, keep your rhetorical questions minimum on this show, Max Kellerman, because I got answers for you. I don't want you just asking a question. How about Geno Smith? Yes, better than Mark Sanchez as far as I'm concerned, simply because Mark Sanchez has a history of ineptitude. Listen, that's right, I said it. Because Mark Sanchez has a history of ineptitude, the jury is still out on Geno, not outside of New York, not in New York. I know New York is done with him. We're done with him.
They're filing in that jury. It's not looking good, Stephen A.
Listen, I wouldn't have a problem. I mean, I pondered the thought. I wouldn't have a problem if the Dallas Cowboys went out and got Christian Ponder. But let me say this, because this is hilarious. The last 4 years Mark Sanchez played in New York City, he was more famous for his hairdo and who he dated than his game. Then he leaves, he departs, he goes to Philadelphia. He shows up for a few games right up until the moment you believe in him, and then he stinks up the joint, okay? Then he comes to Denver this year. After Philadelphia is just done with him, he comes to Denver this year. And he loses out to a Trevor Siemian, who was drafted in the 7th round in 2015, didn't throw an NFL pass last year. So essentially, he's a rookie, a novice, breath smeller like Similac, wet behind the ears. And somehow he found a way to beat Mark Sanchez. And you're telling me Mr. Butt Fumble himself, okay, who ran into a whole bunch of beef, pork, or whatever you want to call it, when his face got planted in a backside of a defender on a Thanksgiving night a few years back, and you're telling me that dude, Mark Sanchez, is a good fit for the Dallas Cowboys? Let me tell you something right now.
Yeah.
Here's what's a good fit for the Dallas Cowboys. Here's what makes it hilarious. Once again, they got somebody that's going to provide a headline. They've got somebody that you're going to laugh at. They got somebody that you're going to scratch your head like you got dandruff over. They've got somebody that you're going to look at and say, hey, you know what? I can't believe they've done it again. These are the Dallas Cowboys. Just when you think they are done being the accident waiting to happen, just when you think that enough's enough, the weed and people getting in trouble and Tony Romo hurting his back because he doesn't know how to slide. And then on top of it all, we ain't even getting that Randy Gregory. He won his appeal and his suspension is going to be reduced. Let's have a celebration. Everybody forgetting the fact that why he was celebrated, why he was suspended to begin with. Forget all of that other stuff. Forget the dudes robbing the department store of drawers and some cologne. Forget all that. And the list goes on and on. These, you know what? I'm going to take it back. I'm going to announce it on national television, y'all. I'm going to make some news today. You know what? Maybe I am a Dallas Cowboy fan because they make me laugh. They just, I cannot believe the things that they do to make me feel so good about watching football. The Dallas Cowboys are an accident waiting to happen. They're a joke of a franchise as far as I'm concerned, and they bring this on themselves. All the talent that they have, they continuously get in their way just to steal headlines, and this is the latest example. Thank you, Cowboys. Mwah, mwah. How about them Cowboys? They just never let you down. Just never let you down.
Well, I can definitely co-sign that sentiment as a Giants fan, Stephen A. But when you talk about Mark Sanchez, let's take this back to Mark Sanchez, which is the original point. Was that a smart move? Is that the right fit? Yes, it is. Why did he lose out to Trevor Siemian? Because if you're the Broncos,
he's not good enough.
And you're gonna Because you're going to owe Mark Sanchez $4.5 million you can get out of paying while you develop a younger guy you just drafted, younger, cheaper, better for the future, and not appreciably different. If you watch any preseason, it's not like Simeon looked a lot better than Sanchez. It's just that Sanchez didn't separate himself from the others. And since he was more expensive, they made a business decision.
Stop right there.
Here the Cowboys get to scoop up.
Time out. Max Kellerman. I'm sorry. When did Mark Sanchez get drafted? Was it 2009? So a guy that's been in the NFL since 2009 goes to Denver, talks about how he's hell-bent on capturing the starting job for the Denver Broncos, the reigning defending Super Bowl champions, and loses out to a dude that has never thrown an NFL pass in his career? And you're telling me, well, you know, what's the shame in that? I mean, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, he really didn't get outplayed. Excuse me, this dude didn't have a business being in the same stratosphere. He didn't have any business being in the same stratosphere as Mark Sanchez.
I'm not making the claim that Mark Sanchez is a starter. But if you're looking for a veteran backup, like a couple days before the season starts, go do better than Mark Sanchez. And you don't have to give up anything but the money, and it's not that much money. This makes sense. And in terms of wanting the headlines, he does that too. That's just bonus in this case.
So Mark Sanchez, congratulations. You're a backup to a rookie who hasn't thrown a regular NFL season pass. Congratulations. You lost out to a 7th-round pick in 2015 who never threw a pass last year. And you're coming to be a backup to a rookie that has never thrown an NFL regular season pass. Mark Sanchez, congratulations. Congratulations.
Guys,
we're so touched. We're so touched.
We got to go to break here. So cheery on this holiday. Sanchez has committed more turnovers per snap than any active quarterback, but he is 4-2 in 6 career playoff games.